Sorry, I'll stop for a sec. And from the Dragon Mountains in the north to the Mahakam Range in the south, and the ruins of their cities scattered throughout the known world bear witness to their former might. CP Momentia El Forum by Elstrad of Ein Gavale. Many of the most outstanding mages, artists, and poets of recorded history have been of this race, and with elves the thanks for dozens of ingenious items we rely on each day, from screw pumps to cosmetics. Those elves who dwell amongst man have largely forgotten their history and culture, the sole sliver of elven identity left in them being a burning hatred for humans, who they refer to as Dwan. The elves of Dol Botana, that puppet vassal of Novgard, and of the wild highlands of the Blue Mountains have retained much of their old knowledge and culture, though they too are condemned to perish. This death sentence was handed to them by biology, for men, though short-lived, are several times more fertile than elves. Thus, while the ancient numbers continue to dwindle, ours grow at an alarming and ever-increasing rate. Some elves believe that the tide of humans can be turned, that they can be put to stop to human expansion, and ultimately their oppression by man. They look to their mythical cousins for salvation, the Ainel, the Alderfolk. The Ainel are said to dwell in another world, or possibly another plane, to which they travel during the mythic age of migration, and from which they at times journey to, visit our world. Legend claims a gate between worlds could be opened, allowing the Ainel to ride to their downtrodden brethren's rescue. These, however, are mere fables, naive fairy tales of this race, condemned to extinction uses, to provide itself some small comfort in these, their last sad moments. It's a contract of Morfog. Disappearance, missing miners. Journey to the end of the world. Sirens, the Harpies' distant relatives, are winged monsters found in the Skellige archipelago, most frequently on unpopulated isles or in the inaccessible coastal areas of populated ones. According to legend, they are daughters of the mythical winged giant Hersvog, who lives on the edge of the world and bursts gales with the heaving of his wings. Hersvog's daughters seek out the company of giants and make their nests near their lairs. These creatures attack boats and ships from the air, tearing sails and rigging to shreds, and rendering the vessels immobile. At times they will snatch men or cattle from the deck and drop them from great heights to their death. They also attack travellers trekking across isolated beaches. Knitting. I'm asking for a crew. Oh yes, that. The Corpse of Novigrad. Alexander Ho walked down the long corridor, delighted at the sounds of debauchery pouring out of the rooms drowned out. That the sounds of debauchery pouring out of rooms drowned out the sounds of his footsteps. The long neglected brothel floor creaked and moaned as though the wood regretted being witness to the lecherous scenes fed to it by this house of ill repute standing in the very centre of the pride of the northern cities. I'm getting all tongue-tied. Ho had been generously remunerated for this visit by the wife of a silk merchant. She had long suspected her husband of dabbling with loose women during his working hours. The case had seemed simple enough, banal even. Cheating husband. How many similar affairs had he unravelled? Worse was that his employer... The worst was that his employers never truly wanted him to bring irrefutable proof of their husband's guilt. On the contrary, in their heart of hearts, they'd always hoped his investigations would prove their husbands model citizens, and their suspicions wholly unfounded. This time it truly did turn out that the woman's husband was no whoremonger, despite the fact that his trail led Alexander to a place in which fleshy pleasures were bought and sold. The door in front of which he stopped, following the instructions he had received from the gnome at the entrance, had a small plaque with the number 16 on it. Unlike the other rooms, this one was enveloped in an unsettling calm. Ho turned the doorknob and pushed the door open, and what he saw behind it far exceeded his worst expectations. The White Frost. Self-proclaimed prophets who shout Iltalane's words mistake the stars reflected in the still pond for the sky. For the White Frost is no legend or mythical apocalypse. It is a natural phenomenon that can be described in the very dry yet precise language of scholarship. The renowned scholar of Torrance studies have clearly shown that a world is not the center of the universe, but one of 1,000 such globes spinning in the endless darkness of space. This space is usually described as a vacuum, yet to do so is grossly misleading, for though this vacuum swims invisible to the naked eye, yet for through this vacuum swims, visible to the naked eye, the white frost. We do not know exactly what the white frost is. Perhaps a microscopic dust that blocks the incoming light of the sun. Perhaps infinitesimal particles of some sort uh, of the sort postulated by Democritus of Barnard, with the unusual property of sucking up warmth as a sponge does water. We know for certain, however, that thanks to the telescopic observations of elven astronomers, the white frost, whatever it is, has already destroyed a great many worlds. The star systems in which it appears perished into lifeless husks of ice over the course of a few decades. Moreover, each scholar is agreed that the white frost will one day come to our world. Glynn's prophecy, though based on magic intuition and scientific observation, thus appears to foretell the truth. Many mages are skeptical about the theses presented here. I recommend they carry out the same experiment I've conducted in my own laboratory. Using the spell Portus Asterum, I open a microscopic portal for 3.5 seconds to the coordinates 0331489089270934. Yet, before you do, dress in your warmer furs and ready an axe for breaking through thick ice. Gwent lessons. Or meant taking lessons. Well, giving lessons. The heroes of Skellige, Tyr. Clan Tyrsok, master of Skellige, was founded by a hero by name Tyr. Legend has it that to take possession of the land promised him by Heimdall, his father, Tyr first had to defeat a great and powerful bear named Yggvar. It was well known that no mortal had survived an encounter with Yggvar, so Tyr decided to prepare properly for the fight. He ventured into the deepest cave in Skellige, and with the fire of the bowels of the earth as his furnace, he forged a blade so fine it could slice a hair lengthwise, and so strong it could fell 100-year-old tree in one blow and not be dulled. Holnin, his mother, engraved protective runes upon the sword by the first light of dawn, so it could protect Tyr from the bear's attacks. Yggvar was defeated, and Tyr became master of Skellige. And his descendants are one of the wealthiest and most powerful clans in the Isles to this day. Heraldic animals. Of the heraldic animals, lions and griffins are the most noble and pure. Let us speak first of griffins, for the creatures from which the armorialists draw inspiration combine elements of both eagles and lions, and thus contain within them both rulers of the animal kingdom. Griffins are brave hunters, and the most chivalrous of creatures known to man, for they snap down from the heavens upon their prey like a divine whip. They let out a long, shrieking cry in warning, so the victim may prepare itself for the imminent attack. Griffins do not fear to attack armed men. In fact, they prefer such prey, for defeating a knight flatters their pride. They even attack fiends, the terror of the Velen wilderness. So honorable is their nature. A rune rite has landed upon your shores. To my foes, from the world's other bosom, vast seas have I crossed to reach this, your most fascinating land, to learn the names of the animals which in it dwell, of the plants which in it grow, and most of all, you, its folk. Ravenous waves devoured the tools of my art, and the rune write's labour does not with his hands end, for he endlessly strides the world to explore, its mysteries to comprehend. Thus, if you wish to stay a while and converse with a traveller from far off here, I invite you to my tent, which I have pitched by a mill near the village named Bunwich. Praised be the world in its never-ending creation of sweat and blood. A veil hangs upon the world which men see, and between the world. A veil hangs between the world men see and the one they cannot. This veil blocks the dead from the view of the living, and the living from the view of the dead. Some mages break through this veil and communicate with the dead, or summon them to the world of the sun for short periods of time. This is the art known as necromancy. The dead can also break through the veil and enter the world of the living on their own. Yet unlike necromancers in doing so, they are not driven by reason and will, but by a totalist and irrational need. This need arises from powerful emotions such as regret, longing, or wrath. Very often these emotions gain their power by being invested in a material object by the dead individual while he or she still knew life. The objects frequently so endowed: wedding rings, favorite toys, or the instrument used for the crime which sent to return the individual to the other world in the first place. Fauna of the Northern Realms, Volume 1. What a wolf is, every man knows. Who hasn't heard them howling at night, or seen their tracks in the snow come morning? Who hasn't felt a cold chill run down his spine when it catches a sight of a pack of 5 hunting in the woods? These beautiful animals are treated by men as enemies, not without reason, for they attack our flocks, and even kill our horses during times of great deep frost. Yet they are noble beasts, endowed with a great intelligence, and displaying a strength and independence that no man can help but admire. Griffin in the Highlands. The ways and manners of the Scoia'tael folk. One's attention immediately is drawn to the fact that their seemingly impoverished huts shine with cleanliness. The walls of their homes are usually made from pine and covered with a substance derived from sap, which keeps out all manner of vermin. I believe it scares off insects as well, for I did not see a single one indoors during my entire stay in Scoia'tael. The interiors of their huts are quite spacious and usually divided into 2 rooms. First is used by members of the household during the day, and separated by a doorway from the second, which acts as a bedroom and contains only simple wooden beds covered with linens that resemble sacks more than continental bedding. In the middle of each main chamber stands a large round table, around which the members of the household gather to eat only once a day. In the middle of each main chamber stands a large round table, around which the members of the household gather to eat only once a day. This happens usually after dusk, the time for the main meal. This supper is a hallowed event and is carried out in a nearly ritualistic manner. At its start, before the family members have even taken their seats around the table, the eldest of the family tears off a piece of bread and places it on something of a household altar, which occupies a place of honor in each Scoia'tael home. This serves as a symbol of respect for deceased ancestors. At the end of the ceremony for the departed, the entire family sits down to eat. The eldest woman places a steaming bowl in the middle of the table. Everyone has their own spoon, which they dip one by one into the basin of food. They most often eat porridge, of which they pour a gravy made from meat or fish. Curiously, immediately upon the summer's conclusion, the eldest takes a piece of bread set aside at the start of the meal and places it in a large amphora. As I later learned, when a large amphora becomes full, it is filled with boiling water, and a beverage is brewed, which in taste somewhat resembles beer, though it is much weaker. The Wild Hunt. A frail ribbon flickers across the sky, the rider's spectral silhouettes barely discernible within it. Then the cavalcade contorts closer and closer, revealing more and more of their ghastly form. Now the buffalo horns atop their helms penetrate one's view, now the crest betwixt them, and now the skull-like face exposed beneath their visors. The riders set astride skeletal mounts, bits of barding stuck to their sides like boils. A furious gale howls through the willows. Their blades now glisten like unfailing stars in the black sky. The wind howls louder and louder. No, it is not wind. It is ghost song. Suddenly the nightmarish cavalcade twists once more, the hooves of its ghostly mounts churning the light of will-o-wisps hanging above the bog. At the head of the cavalcade rides the king of the hunt. A rust-eaten bassinet sways above a skull-like mask. Gaping eye sockets burn with a pale blue fire. Around him whirls tattered cloak. A necklace rattles atop his rust-covered breastplate. Holes empty as the abyss stare out from it. Once they were filled with precious stones, but those fell out during his race across the skies and became stars. The king of the hunt laughs, his teeth, rotten as the grave, snapping above the collar of his breastplate. The blue flames in his eye sockets of his skeletal mask roar. The world underground. We hunkered down for the night in a cave so enormous to light from our torches faded into the murky black without revealing any upper bound to it. For most of the night, all we could hear was the rushing of water somewhere behind the wall of the cave. Yet after some time, it is hard to say how much, for we lost all sense of where day ended and night began, with a sort of scraping noise, and then sound of boulders shifting. The scraping turned to a roar. But by that time, we were already on our feet and running towards the tunnel through which we had entered the cave. We did so none too soon, for the shifting had opened up a new passage in the cavern, which began to spew out hordes of small, misshapen humanoids. Without breaking stride, I looked over my shoulder, and in the midst of the mass of midgets, I spied the outline of a large black troll. Thus began a run for our lives. Beasts of the Tuja foothills. The peasants of the Tuja foothills say fiends are born of magic, for at times witches cast spells on bears, causing them out boars, and the resultant offspring is neither boar nor bear, but has the makings of a fiend. Usually such boar piglets die of hunger, but they are at times found and taken in by witches. Raised on enchanted milk, they grow in strength, and soon enough the milk is no longer enough for them. Though fiends, they start hunting and kill their victims with the ferocity of a boar and the strength of a bear. They remain true to their mothers, meaning the witches. The witches protect them from danger, and answer their every summons, and aid them in all things. Of the many demons which reside in the outer spheres, hymns are among the most dangerous. Other demons usually take on concrete, living form, be it man or beast. Hymns, on the other hand, appear in our world in their own immaterial form, which is visible to all save their chosen victim. Hymns feed on fear, regret, a sense of guilt, in a word, on negative emotions, and since they are eternally hungry, they provoke these emotions in humans they torment. These demons cannot be exorcised. A man a hymn takes as a victim is lost, and never succumb to madness and then death. I swear I'm being haunted by one of them. I'm like feeling guilty about every fucking little thing. Ugh. As for the Genesis of Ghouls, their hypothesis is aplenty. Some scholars claim these monstrosities arose from scoundrels who indulged in a taste for human flesh, and for this misdeed drew the wrath of the heavens down upon themselves. The gods punished them by taking away their souls, their minds, and their human forms. My experiments have shown, however, that ghoul anatomy displays far too little in common with that of humans for this hypothesis to seem all probable. Any and all similarity in appearance between ghouls and men is such as their somewhat kindred shapes and measurements of their physiognomies are pure matters of incident circumstance. It thus follows the ghouls, like their vile cousins the owl ghouls, are post-conjunction creatures. That's to say, beings that came to our universe in an abrupt cataclysm, disrupting the normal laws of nature. Despite what you might have heard, the first golem was not created by a powerful mage or elven sage, but by a simple dwarf from Maribor named Bonaventura Sesto, a brickmaker. The fateful act of creation took place over a century ago, when the persecution of non-humans was in full swing in Maribor. Elves and dwarves had been accused of bringing an epidemic to the city, though it was later discovered that the outbreak had been caused by a man named Matteo, a barkeep's dog's body at the Golden Goose Inn. This Matteo was charged with both serving meals and cleaning the latrines, and would only wash his hands once a month, and then not very thoroughly. Rest is to say his history. But the persecution of non-humans was limited at first to robbing stores, arson, and occasional beating, but the violence soon escalated into a bloody pogrom. As the city guard looked on without lifting a finger, humans murdered elves and dwarves during 3 days and nights of slaughter, killing over 300 individuals, including the aforementioned Bonaventura Sesto's entire family. Driven mad with grief and thirsting for vengeance, Montaro molded a 10-foot tall humanoid out of clay, then carved the names of the slain non-humanoids onto it, along with a smattering of dwarven curses. Once finished, he slit his own throat, and when his blood splattered his gigantic statue, it came alive and started walking towards the city. Bonaventura had his sweet revenge on his persecutors. His creation killed almost 500 humans, including the mayor and the entire city council, for the soldiers from the city garrison could take it out using their ballista. The Conclave's later investigation found that Bonaventura's had possessed hidden magic talent, though he had never had any training. The torrent of powerful motions running through him at the time of his death flushed out his latent powers created from a new spell. After numerous alterations and improvements, one can now cast a spell without sacrificing one's life, and golems guard laboratories, libraries, and palaces across the continent. Wondrous world of insectoids. One is hard-pressed to think of a creature more hard-working and better organized than the Integra. Ants, bees, and termites are no match for them in this regard. They grow best even humans when it comes to foresightness and industry. In fact, the human race could benefit a great deal from following their example, and resigning from the primitive and obsolete social structures of feudalism, and instead adopting a form of Arachnocommmunism. In Arachnocommmunism, every individual has a specific place and performs a specific labor for the common good. The roles are as follows: worker, soldier, queen. Each comrade contributes to the necessary daily toil according to his special abilities, takes from the common fund of wealth according to his special needs. Arachno-communism. Sounds like, what was it? And, damn it, I'm thinking of giant spiders again. Ancoms, anarchy communists. I remember talking to one before. It was an interesting conversation, if they were, indeed legitimate. They were saying that they would, they would, like, police force wise, places would establish their own police force, and the community would fund them directly. So, I'm not sure if they meant by neighborhood or by a larger a region. Presumably a larger region, though maybe richer neighborhoods could fund them themselves. But the person wasn't really. Part of the reason why I think they might have been legitimate, though they may have just been quite cripplingly ideal, and caught up in idealism and maybe a bit of naivete, was they didn't really contemplate what happened if the police were corrupt. As it's present today, while there are problems with police force and corruption and whatnot, there are at least the possibility of, recourse. But the police here would run their own courts. And they would be the only law enforcement local. If you wanted a different law enforcement, you would have to try and hire a law enforcement outside of your territory, presumably, and get them to beat out the thugs that are currently in charge. And that would turn out into full-scale gang war, if the other side is even interested in helping out. But anyway, what I was getting at was, I was pointing out, what if police break their own charter? Actually, before getting to that, basically they would say, say if you wanted protection, you would pay the police. And you would have to abide by their charter, and they'll protect you from other crimes. They'll, if you committed murder, they'll punish you for it if murder's under charter, and presumably would be. But if you were murdered, they would track down your murderer and punish them. Though I remember wondering before, did that count if the murderer wasn't part of, signed up to the police? Presumably it would, but I thought I saw something else that said, if you weren't signed up to police, they wouldn't provide you any protection, but they also wouldn't go down beating down your door. But I might be adding a line. It's been 2-3 years since I read it. But yeah, basically, there's a charter, and if you break the rules of it, if you sign up to it, they provide you protection from what's on the charter, and they punish you if you break what's on the charter. But I was making the point anyway that, what if the police chief, or what if a police member starts, breaking the houses and robbing places? Their response was they would never do that because it would cost them money. Which is cripplingly naive. another reason why I thought they mightn't be legitimate was because they argued that currently, at present, there is no recourse for police misbehaviour, and yet in their system there'll be even less recourse, where the police are the law entirely unto themselves. There is no governing body, there is no one above them. They are basically their petty warlords in their own little feudal kingdom. They have their own courts. They are the judge, jury, and executioner. And while there's certainly plenty of issues now with cops, I'd imagine that would make them all the worse. Well, there'll be legitimate ones and proper ones. This would just embolden the ones that aren't. Because, like, think about it. If, well, at least here in Ireland, we have the police ombudsman. If, you can go to them if you have issues with the police. There's a variety of recourses. The courts, while there are issues in legal systems across the world, there's at least something, yeah? But with the cops, they would be the courts. They would have their own court system. Presumably their buddies would be the judge and the jury. There's at least a chance under the current system for justice. There wouldn't be there. Which again either makes me think they're cripplingly naive or fucking with me. But yeah, basically, like, predominantly the conversation was about with the anarchy communist. Actually, no, sorry, they weren't an ANCOM, they were an ANCAP, that was it. They were an anarchy capitalist, that was it. Sorry, I got the ones confused. But they, yeah, anyway, it was an ANCAP, oh, I'm getting all this bollocks confused. But yeah, what was it? The giant spiders are still freaking me out. Ugh. I don't remember where I was going with that. But yeah, the ANCAP. Yeah, the conversation mostly focused on the police thing. I think the last I remember saying was that, like, as trouble as there is at present with police forces and corruption and whatnot, having the police be the courts, having the police be like the sole arbitrator of law in that area, with no one above them, unless you're able to somehow wrangle another group of police in and are prepared for, gang warfare to rage for who knows how long. Because if the police are bad enough that you have to go bring in another group, they're likely not to move on peaceably. They're going to fight for their dominance over the territory. Petty warlords. While I could say there was some legitimate one. No, wait, that was an older point. But yeah, they're either fucking with me or... Damn it! Remembering bits and pieces. My brain feels awfully clouded as of late. I've been forgetting things more regularly, I'll be mid-saying it and I'll forget it entirely. I don't know what's up with me, but it's been haunting me as of late. It's quite irritating. Let me reiterate a bit and hopefully it'll come to me. If not, I'll maybe stumble onto it all the same. Yeah, they were saying you'd hire the police and they'll protect you, but they didn't really have any they kind of denied human levels of villainy. Like, oh, the police would never do that, they'll cost them business. But, people do plenty of crimes that, they cut off their nose to spite their face, And anyway, if they're doing a police force around, and they're establishing their own petty, feudal thing, territory, you aren't really going to be able to get another one, are you? So, as you know, as flawed as the current system is world over, there's at least the possibility of justice. But when you make the cops, the jury, and judge and jury, and in cases of cop corruption and the criminal, there's not even a ghost of it there, not a ghost of a chance of justice. So yeah, with comments like this, it's either they're cripplingly like optimistic and like out of touch with human behavior, or they were fucking with me. It's impossible to tell online. It's impossible to tell talking to people in general, you know? But anyway. Oh shit, I got a doctor's appointment today. I forgot that. Why, you've got such big eyes, Grandmom, Why you've got such big eyes, Grandmom? Asked the little girl with worry. Shriek, shriek, replied the basilisk. Grandmom, why do you say shriek, shriek? Asked the little girl with surprise. The basilisk didn't reply, but instead clamped its toothy, venomous maw over the curious little girl and swallowed her up. Luckily, a witcher by the name of Scoia'tael, as in one of her buddies, was wandering in these lands in search of a Zoogle. The witcher was experienced and knew basilisks only turned people to stone in fairy tales. I also knew it was best to avoid their venom. Ezekiel noticed the monster recently eaten. Before anyone could say, ready, set, go, he threw himself at the beast and cut it open with a silver sword. The basilisk's stomach opened up, and the witcher saw the half-digested, foolish little girl inside. But yeah, I think that's one of our buddies. What do we... oh yeah, I've done that before. Do it yourself. How many times have you cursed a tailor for sewing a shirt more crooked than that infamous home in Novigrad? How many times have you argued with a smith who proved unable to forge a simple horseshoe in a month? How many times will you steal food from your children's mouths because some armorer demanded a Kavori fortune for a humdrum helmet? A ho-hum helmet. Enough. Basta, I say, and so should you. Empowered by the tome you hold in your hands and its few simple tools, you shall be able to perform basic repairs all by yourself, perhaps even create something from scratch. Show those extortioners from the crafting guilds who shall make the fool of whom. Roll computer sleeves and get to work. Wife, haunted house, vows and hymns. The woven storm. These scars long have yearned for your tender caress, to bind their fortunes, damned with the stars' own. Rend my heart open, then your love profess, a winding, weaving fate to which we both atone. You flee my dream, come the morning, your scent berries tart, lilac sweet, to dream of raven locks and twisted, stormy, of old eyes, glistening as you weep. The wolf will follow into the storm, to find your heart, its passion displaced, by ire ever growing, hardening into stone, amidst the cold to hold you in a heated embrace. You flee my dreams, come the morning, your scent berries tart, lilac sweet, to dream of raven locks and twisted, stormy, of old eyes, glistening as you weep. I know not if fate would have us live as one, or if by love's blind chance we've been bound. The wish I whispered when it all begun, did not forge a love you might never have found. You flee my dreams, come the morning, your scent berries tart, lilac sweet, the dream of raven locks and twisted, stormy, of valiant eyes, glistening as you weep. Woven storm. To be honest, that's making me think of Dwarf and Dwarf? Geralt and Yennefer. Okay, there's still a fair 16 left, so let's just leave it there. That's it? Alright. Okay. I'll get to Avalak eventually. Like I said, I'm going to focus on wild, this stuff now. Ooh, Bunwich. So that was a lot of reading anyway. I still feel uncomfortable. Like, seriously. Guarded treasure. Only one enemy. Hunter's cottage. Giant bear! Fistfight time. Yeah, show this bear who's boss. Ah, fuck it. Hunter's cottage. Oh, he's dead. Enhanced cavalry saddle. You can keep it. I've got the best gear in the game. Unless there's something new from DLCs. Got a pearl, leather straps. Blade. Better version of what I currently have, but with slightly less vitality, but that is fine. We'll slap it on. Boots up Igni. Very little here. Ow. I keep forgetting how damn squishy Geralt is. Probably regrets killing Kira. I could have saved her. I thought, in my save, she was still alive. Like, remember how I went with one save and I killed her, then I went back and redid it? Yeah, I thought I was working off that save, but apparently not. I realized that a huge chunk into the game, it was too late for me to remedy the situation. My skin is still crawling. Huh. Wyvern. Not particularly interested in fighting one. It's not still after me, is it? No. Oh, more fallen knights. Fucking Mad Max up in this bitch. Whoa. How dare you crossbow me when I'm crossbowing you? Oh yeah, I got this. A bit late on that front. Seems to think he's the protagonist. That or he thinks he's Tom Cruise from Live I Repeat. Or Edge of Tomorrow. The American version of All You Need Is Kill. Japanese novel. I read the manga adaptation, which is apparently quite a lot more true to the source material. Though, not necessarily completely accurate to it. I wouldn't know, I haven't read the source material. Aren't we meant to, like, get through them with stamina? You know, like, lower their stamina low enough, they drop the shield? Or is it just a case you're not... I never figure out how to deal with shield guys. Thunder, I'm warning you. Snort that much Fizztech again and you'll end up at dead white wood, just like that mad fizz fiend Peter. Your job's to sell the product, not inhale it. Blazing hells. Expect the pickup today. One sec.